The energetic themes that are connected to the upcoming full moon happening in the sign of Scorpio encompass ideas of transformation, innovation, and revolution. Now, this isn't only because of the moon's placement in the sign of Scorpio, but is more about the bigger picture of how all of the planets are interacting with each other right now, which we, of course, are going to explore as we also explore what these energies mean to you specifically and how you can specifically work with the energies to support whatever your journey in life is right now. My name is Carrie Konyha. I'm a professional psychic reader, shamanic energy healing practitioner, and astrologer. Welcome back, my friends. To start with, I want to do just a quick little recap as to what the energetic significance of each full moon is, for those of you who are new and are still learning about these things. So the full moon happens in the halfway point of each lunar cycle, which starts with the new moon. The full moon is therefore a culmination period. It's a time of illuminated awareness based on whatever energies were newly set in motion during the new moon that happens 2 weeks before the full moon. So the new moon is a time of new energies, new beginnings. It's when we set new intentions. And then the full moon begins the portion of the lunar cycle that is more about releasing, discharging, letting go. It's like an exhale, bringing things into completion. So here we are at the high point of this lunar cycle. Before we even get into the astrology, we can look back at what the wisdom teachings were connected to the new moon a few weeks ago, which I always share wisdom teachings that are connected to the indigenous cultures. And in accordance to this most recent new moon that we had a few weeks ago, that energy is all about tapping into your inner visionary, your inner creative dreamer. This moon cycle that we're in and of itself, beginning with the new moon a few weeks ago, is ultimately about illuminating our awareness about what we are consciously or unconsciously dreaming in through our repetitive thoughts, feelings, what we daydream about, and things like that. So here we are coming into the full moon, which happens in the sign of Scorpio on Monday, May 12th. The timing of the full moon is 9:55 a.m. Pacific time. This full moon is happening in the sign of Scorpio. Scorpio encompasses archetypal energies that are connected to cycles of birth, life, death, renewal, transformation, evolution, and empowerment. Scorpio energy goes deep, deep into the recesses of our deep unconscious mind, and it's very connected to shadow work. And so the theme that I'm seeing as being prevalent within this full moon is about calling our power back. A part of shadow work, a big part of shadow work, is bringing the shadow to the light of awareness. And that's because the energetic densities of our shadow ultimately contain the key to what the sacred medicine is that we were born to share in the world with others, to support and inspire, illuminate them. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But the bigger picture themes here connected to this full moon on a personal level, it's an energy of reclaiming your power. So if you've been following along my videos or other videos that talk about new moon, full moon, think back of what intention did you set for yourself in the most recent new moon, which happened like the last week of April. What were your intentions that were connected to the illumination of awareness, you embracing your inner dreamer and your inner visionary? Now, what we're doing ultimately is we are reclaiming the parts of us that maybe did not feel empowered in those ways previous to now. Now, I'm just going to say real quick here, the astrology shows us what the energy is, and then we look deeper into the decans and the energies that are connected with those decans, which typically are planets, zodiac signs, and tarot cards to tell us how to work with the energy. So I'm going to get into that part in a little bit. But I want to say here that this full moon is co-ruled by both Mars and Pluto because Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio and Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio. So in a little bit, we're going to take a look at what's going on with Mars and Scorpio for some added insight. But the thing I want to say here is that the moon in Scorpio right now is opposite of the sun. The moon is always opposite of the sun every full moon, but the sun is also conjunct Uranus. This is probably the most significant thing that is happening with this full moon chart because Uranus is very innovative energy. It revolutionizes anything that it connects to astrologically. It can be about sudden, unexpected change and new developments. There's going to be awarenesses around positive leaps in your healing, empowerment, growth journey that you have accomplished, that you have achieved, that are now setting you on new trajectories. So this is me just kind of talking about the big picture influences, and then we're going to be dialing into the specifics here. Let's talk about the sun for a moment. Both the sun and Uranus are in the sign of Taurus. I'll talk about that part in a moment. But the sun represents your personal radiance. It's your life force of vitality. It's your self-identity. And depending on where you are at within your journey, that self-identity can be connected to more of your ego mind, but it can also be connected to your self-realization. And I want to weave that into the mix because we are in an energy of illuminating our awareness. And illuminated awareness leads to self-realization. So Taurus energy, as I said, the sun and Uranus conjunct are both in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign. With the sun and Uranus being opposite of the moon, which the moon represents your inner emotional nature. And I will say with the moon in Scorpio, this is the time where we could all be feeling intense emotions, heavy emotions. But just know that whatever is coming up on those emotional levels are coming up to be held in the light of awareness, to be held compassionately in loving energies that supports healing and integration. But the sun and Uranus in Taurus really lends itself to giving us a push in the direction of letting go of the old. Any old outworn pattern, any pattern of rigidity that we've held on to, anything that is contributing to an energetic density or stagnation. The call that we have now is to liberate ourselves from those things. The energy now naturally has a collective encouragement or influence on all of us embracing innovation, especially regarding financial situations, our physical environment, our personal values, and our relationships as we are guided to break free from the old and level up our connections with ourselves, our connections with our self-love, our connections with our values, and our connections with other people. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Venus is connected to love, harmony, beauty, and relationships. And so these themes are a factor here. Before I talk about the how do we work with the energy, I want to talk about what's going on with both Mars and Pluto, since these are the co-rulers of this full moon. Mars right now is in the sign of Leo. And before I go further, let me say that the best way that you can understand how to specifically work with these energies in you regarding your life is to know what sector of your chart, what section or what house these things are happening in. Just a little recap here. What area of your chart, what house is Scorpio in your personal chart? And whatever that is where these full moon energies are going to be playing out. What house is the Taurus house of your chart? And this is giving you that dynamic polarity of knowing how to work with these energies in this opposition. If you need help with these things, I invite you to reach out and book an astrological consultation with me. I'm happy to go through your chart with you to help you to get an idea of what your birth chart is and what's being activated in your birth chart right now. I'll put links below as to how you can contact me. So the same thing with Mars and Pluto. Mars is in Leo right now. So where is the Leo sector of your chart? Pluto is in Aquarius. Where's the Aquarius sector of your chart? It's going to be these areas that give you the most opportunity for growth and development right now. So the more you can work with these energies consciously, the more benefit you will gain. The astrological energies influence us whether we're aware of them or not, but being aware of them empowers us to work with them most consciously and directly in alignment with whatever you know your growth goals are or your manifestation goals or whatever. So going back to Mars in Leo, Mars is the planet that is connected to action. It's our drive, it's our leadership, it's our ambition. And Leo is the shining one. Leo is the energy that is connected to really embodying your interpersonal light, your exuberance. It's letting your inner child come out and play. It's connected to self-empowerment that comes through creative self-expression, being empowered in your creativity. And this can mean even just what your creative vision is for yourself, what your creative intention is for yourself, utilizing creative life force energy with intent to drive yourself forward in self-leadership in regard to what your life goals are is a part of what's influencing this full moon, again, because Mars is one of the co-rulers. Now, I'm going to talk about the aspects connected to Mars specifically in a moment, but first, let's talk about Pluto. Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio, and it is connected to evolution, transformation, and empowerment. Right now, Pluto is retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, which we already spoke of. Uranus is the planet that's bringing us that innovative, revolutionizing type of energy. And so Pluto, which is making direct aspects to that Uranus and Mars, with Pluto retrograde, it literally is a power retrieval energy. This would be a really good week to literally do some shamanic power retrieval work through shamanic journeying, journaling. There's other things which I'll talk about in a little bit to give you guys some suggestions. But it's very much about understanding how the process of bringing your unconscious shadow self to the light of awareness, as I mentioned earlier, contains the key to what your sacred medicine is to share with the world. And in doing so, that in and of itself is a tremendous act of reclaiming your power because you're embodying the sacred medicine that is connected to the parts of yourself that you have unconsciously rejected, denied, and disowned, which does lead to woundedness. So deep healing comes simply through reclaiming your power. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these aspects, meaning how some of these planets are connected to each other for some additional information. We do still have the influence of the opposition between Mars and Pluto that's been going on for like the past month or so here. It has been pulling a part of that opposition, but now that Pluto is retrograde again, it's like hanging in there. So Pluto opposite Mars, evolutionary, revolutionary transformation, opposing creative self-leadership. What that means is that our journey of creative self-leadership is best when we're doing it with the intent of embodying our full potential, completely owning who we are, noticing the parts of you that have healed. On one level, there's always things in life that require our awareness of where we need healing, but we're not meant to get stuck eternally in cycles of healing. At some point, we do experience healing and the return to empowerment that comes with that. So, a part of our healing journey right now really is to notice where we have healed and to reclaim that. That is the power that we are reclaiming. Pluto is making a trine aspect to Uranus, which is supporting that illumination of awareness around what we feel guided to revolutionize in our life. And so just ask yourself, well, what am I feeling guided to revolutionize? What am I feeling complete with? What is old and outworn? Let me know in the comments what your ideas are. The more we share with each other in the comments, the more we can support each other in our journeys and learn from each other as well. So, where are you being guided? What area of yourself, what area of life are you being guided to innovatively revolutionize? Where is your awareness leading you in the direction of where you're ready to make a positive shift? Where are you noticing that you have more self-realization right now? And how can you harness the power of that self-realization to completely embody your self-authority, which is connected to Pluto making a sextile aspect to Saturn. Saturn is the planet of authority. It's self-discipline, it's structure. It can also be related to karma. So a part of what we're bringing to completion is using our self-authority to call karmic cycles into completion. Do you know that we have the authority to do that? We have the authority to say, I'm complete with this karmic cycle. I've learned the lesson. I'm ready to move on. In what ways is that showing up for you? Now, a big thing that I want to talk about here is we're tying Saturn into the mix. Saturn has been in Pisces for the past 3-ish years. It's getting ready to go into Aries at the end of this month. So this is a big karmic clearing shift that we're coming into. This is also connected to stepping into your self-authority. Saturn right now is conjunct Neptune, which just recently went into Aries. Neptune in Aries is the archetype of the spiritual warrior. So, harnessing the power of our self authority to fully embody our own inner spiritual warrior, which means you're leading yourself in the direction of what your true soul calling, meaning, and purpose is, with a dedication to utilize, share your sacred medicine with the world, share your spiritual gifts with the world. So this lunar cycle is heralding in larger cycles of self-empowerment, self-authority, self-embodiment. So we talked about how Pluto is making that trine aspect, which is a positive, supportive aspect to Uranus. Pluto's making a sextile aspect, which is also like a creatively inspiring aspect to Saturn, and Saturn is also making a sextile aspect to Uranus, revolutionizing your life through creative innovation. Now, when I'm talking about creativity, I don't necessarily mean the typical things, painting, drawing, writing poetry, things like that. Again, it can be creative envisioning, creative dreaming, dreaming in, envisioning, setting your intentions in the direction of what your deepest ambitions are, your true soul calling is in your life at this time. And the energies now basically are supporting us in clearing away anything that has been an obstruction to that so that we can really fully embody the version of ourself that we need to be that will ultimately be a vibrational match to what we're intending. Okay, so now we're going to get into the how. In exploring how we work with these energies, we're taking a deeper look at the decans that are connected to the placement of the full moon and the sun. Those are the two decans I'm going to work with today. For those of you who maybe aren't sure what I'm talking about with the decans, each zodiac sign is encompassing 30 degrees. Within those 30 degrees that each zodiac sign has, those are broken down into three groups of 10, and that's what the decans are. So those decans or those degrees connect with and relate to the various planets and tarot cards. And we're going to look at these in regard to how. How do we work with the energies? So we're going to start with the moon in Scorpio being in the last decan of Scorpio because the moon is at 22 degrees. This decan of Scorpio relates to the Seven of Cups tarot card. The Seven of Cups depicts a person who's looking at seven different cups that are filled with different things. Each cup has a different image in it. And so this represents choices that you stand before, right? Options, choices to consider. This can be a time of reprioritizing. But on a deeper level, what I'm getting intuitively, especially with the Scorpio energy and the part of this that's connected to your shadow side and reclaiming your power from your shadow, alchemizing the shadow to light or alchemizing the shadow to your sacred medicine, to me, the Seven of Cups is more about what aspect of you, what facet of you is making the choice. Are you choosing from your wounded self? Are you choosing from your worried self, your fearful self? Or are you choosing from your healed self, your empowered self? That's the deeper esoteric work right now. Which part of you is choosing? And in having contemplation on this, you might notice, oh, this is the part of me that's been unconsciously choosing, but now I'm aware of it, and I can choose the part of me that I want to allow to be the part that is choosing. What does the empowered, healed self of me feel most guided to say yes to? And that is your work. And I would love for you to share in the comments with all of us below what your insight is for yourself along these lines again, so we can all support each other and learn from one another. Now, the zodiac sign of Scorpio in general relates to the death card, which is a major arcana card. The major arcana cards in the tarot are connected to our soul evolution journey. The death card is about transformation and ultimately rebirth. So we have opportunities to come into positive transformation, cycles of rebirth and renewal through being very conscious about what aspect of ourselves we are choosing from. Okay, share in the comments whatever you want to share about that. Then the other thing we're going to talk about here is the last decan of the placement of the sun and Uranus. The sun is at 22 degrees and Uranus is at 26 degrees. That decan of Taurus is connected to the Seven of Pentacles. Pentacles is earth energy. And so ultimately, it's manifestation energy. It's the energy of being in the world of form. The Seven of Pentacles energies and wisdom teachings are connected to perseverance, dedicated effort. And it's about efforting in the direction of longer term fulfillment through perseverance. So, how is that showing up for you as it relates to us talking about all of this alchemizing shadow to light? This could be your dedication is my mindfulness practice is to embody the empowered me, the whole me, the healed me. And I'm purposely practicing embodying that aspect of me with dedication for the long haul. And I'm noticing what the results of that are. The sign of Taurus in and of itself represents the Hierophant tarot card, which the Hierophant tarot card typically is connected to societal rules, regulations, beliefs around higher education, religion, and things like that. But in regard to the themes that are happening now, aside from what we spoke about with Saturn, which actually this decan of Taurus does represent Saturn, the Hierophant and this decan connected to Saturn is a repeat of that theme of your self-authority. You being your own spiritual guru, your own spiritual guide, tapping into the part of you that knows the best path to take for yourself right now. Tapping into the part of you that knows the answers to the questions you seek. And that part of you is going to be connected to that self-authority, self-empowered, healed aspect of you. Here, let me just share some empowerment practices that you can do to really fully work with and embody these energies of reclaiming your power. Reclaiming your power starts with owning your emotions. However we feel in ourselves is always connected to what we're deeply thinking and believing. But much of what we think and believe isn't necessarily true. It can be based on assumptions and projections. So owning your emotions looks like delving into what the ideas or the beliefs are behind your emotions, and then ultimately reframing them in the light of truth in order to come into that reclaiming of your power. A practice that I use a lot is this. You fill in the blank. The reason I feel fill in the blank is because I believe fill in the blank. And you can continue to go down the rabbit hole, whatever you're believing here, right? Then you turn that into the feeling. The reason I feel this is because I believe this. The reason of this is because of this. And you just get to the root of what the core idea, thought, or belief is that's impacting your emotions. You allow yourself to then reframe the thinking pattern, which will bring the emotion into an integrated space. So this is something you can do in a journaling exercise. Expressing your truth. Practice expressing your truth. Expressing our truth starts with telling ourselves the truth. Telling yourself the truth about what your true vision is for yourself in alignment with the theme of this complete moon cycle that we're in right now. Let yourself tell yourself the truth about what you're most ambitious about. Let yourself tell yourself the truth about what you're most curious about or enthused about or excited about the possibility of in your life. And let that be what guides you. Notice where you're not expressing your truth in your life and ask yourself why. Is it serving you? Are you a person that's noticing that you haven't been living in alignment with your truth? Share with us in the comments below. I love looking at the comments, and when somebody leaves a comment that is like a substantial question about their soul growth, I will personally respond to it. And then healthy boundaries is another empowerment practice that will support a reclaim to power. Now, boundaries, and I've said this before, it's probably my main teaching about boundaries. Boundaries is not pushing people away or putting walls up, right? Boundaries is knowing what your intention is in life, knowing what your intent is, knowing what your vision is, knowing what your dream is, your goals, your ambitions, and owning responsibility to hold space for those things to be experienced in your life without allowing it to be hijacked or diminished by other people or situations. So I'm going to leave you with those 3 empowerment practices that you can be doing as we're approaching the full moon and even the week after the full moon. And I would love for you to share what your personal results with doing these things are. So, all my love, guys, blessings, namaste. Please do take a moment to subscribe if you have not yet, and I will be happy to see you in the next video. Blessings.